So Rand Paul, decent guy, criminal justice reform, and this wasn't after his speech, but this was after President Trump's speech. So, you know, just look at the way. By the way, remember Jake Tapper was tweeting out about how the Republicans were bad because they weren't social distancing or wearing masks at their thing. Look at how many no maskers are in here, and look at the closeness of this. Also, this guy has the mask under his nose. Nice job. Look at the closeness to these people over here. Also, Rand Paul had coronavirus at one point. They're just getting all up in his face. I like the dislike on this. Also, this is what about Brianna? Protesters surround Senator Rand Paul after RNC. Again, Rand Paul, the author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act, and rioters. I mean, like we don't have better protection for senators than this. That's like 6 cops. Some of them are armed with bicycles. Bicycles. It's Rand Paul and his wife, by the way. And then there's that woman like screaming, Breonna Taylor, Breonna Taylor. There's a recently unsealed document that implies that Breonna Taylor might actually be involved in the drug dealing that the police raided the house for. That doesn't necessarily say that she deserved to die, obviously, but it's just interesting. But more importantly on the Breonna Taylor case is that her death would be a wrongful death, not a murder. Like, the cops didn't go there to kill Breonna Taylor. And if she was really sleeping in her bed in another room when the cops shot her, then they didn't know she was there, much less target her for a malicious racist murder. But again, Rand Paul, author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act, Rand Paul against no-knock warrants before Breonna Taylor died. Rand Paul ran on criminal justice reform back in 2010, 5 years before the Black Lives Matter movement even existed. Like these guys are joining him on a position that he already held. Yeah. So you see the decency of like Rand Paul right there? That's just like natural innate instinct. He sees a cop get pushed behind him, right? His goal with his wife should be going forward, getting through this crowd. He immediately reaches out to grab this guy to like check on him, make sure he doesn't fall over. Like, again, the author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act. This is what they're doing. They're trying to get in his face. Say her name, Rand. Say her name. Why won't you say her name? I wrote a bill specifically to not let the no-knock warrant thing happen that you guys are allegedly concerned about. Say her name, Rand. Freaking Jesus Christ. Yeah, look, you could even see him go in to ask him if he's okay. Like, amidst all this chaos, Dr. Paul is checking in on somebody else. And these rioters are trying to flex compassion on him. They're screaming, say her name at him. Like, come on. No, Rand is Rand is too decent to be in the Senate. Like, whether you agree with him or disagree with him, this man is too decent to be there. Like, look at that. Obviously scared. Remember, Rand Paul has been attacked on his own property by his neighbor who was a Democrat. Rand Paul was practicing baseball for the congressional baseball game when a Bernie Sanders supporter came to that practice and decided to shoot up Republicans. Like, he's with his wife right now, and he's walking through a mob. His protection is, 6 cops with bicycles? And look at his reaction when this guy gets shoved. Immediately, instinct right there. Checks on him. Not only grabs him, leans in to ask him if he's okay. Like, and then this goofy goober tries to lean in. Again, social distancing pandemic, that's a nose over the mask. Her name is Breonna Taylor. Shut your stupid, fat, ignorant mouth. Again, The author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act. The guy who wanted to ban no-knock warrants. Shut your fat, ignorant mouth. But her name is Breonna Taylor. God. Just embarrassing. Yeah. I'm going to dislike this because of USA Today's headline. Rand Paul did nothing wrong. I could watch him on Fox News responding to this. But, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna go with it. Trump ad. All right, so we'll do this, and then that's it. This is like the Rand Paul segment. Oh yeah, they start with the clip that I was talking about. Her name is Breonna Taylor.
You can tell that man behind the mask is Rand Paul. A bunch of protesters descending on the Kentucky senator and his...
Fox and friends, what are you doing? Protesters? Wrong, incorrect, not even close. The word you're looking for is rioters. You know, Mike Harlow, I had him on a live stream a couple of times. He's one of the walkaway guys. Mike Harlow was invited to the White House for this event. He was also confronted by these people, and they were hurling anti-gay slurs at him and Brandon, who's also from Walkaway. He's the big guy. He's like, you know, the face. He's not big. Like, he's actually normal height. But he's like the face of Walkaway. They also had to deal with these protesters that were protesting their sexuality because they happen to be white. Because they're just dropping F-bombs on them and not, you know, F-U-C-K, the other one. Like, that's these progressives in the street.
Wife Kelly, as they left the president's RNC speech from the White House. Actually, it was a longer trip than that. He joins us right now for his first live interview since that confrontation. Senator, good morning. That looks...
Rand Paul's wearing the same tie that he was wearing in his speech. This man is stressed. You see that pattern. Yeah. They deserve to have that bicycle thrown at them.
Scary.
Yeah, you know, my wife and I, it was horrific. You know, we had two women with us who were friends of ours. We had looked out, you know, we came out of the speech
at the White House.
We looked into the street. Our hotel was only right across the street from the White House, but we couldn't go because the mob was already chasing people down that chose to go out that exit. So the Secret Service says, get on a bus and ride to the Trump Hotel. So we got on a bus. It took 45 minutes to get through all the mobs. We get there safely, and then we say...
Yeah, there actually is video of them stopping a bus because they heard that Ron Paul was on the bus. That's how stupid these people are. They don't know the difference between Ron Paul and Rand Paul. Buffoons. And, yeah, they can't go to their hotel across the street. By the way, notice how Rand Paul is not staying at the Trump Hotel because he's not into that whole double dipping thing. He's staying at a hotel across the street. Yeah. This is, you know... This is what members of the United States Senate have to deal with. And again, the author, do I need to say it one more time? Of the Justice for Breonna Taylor Act. That's Rand Paul. Like that's the guy that they're harassing and attacking. Like that's what's going on. Let me actually, yeah, I'm gonna go with that. Oh my god, so dumb. Again, if this was about policy, you wouldn't be harassing Rand Paul. Okay.
We'll get an Uber to go all the way back where we came from, and we wanted to be dropped off at the hotel. But as we got close to it, the streets were blocked, and no one would let us through. And what happened...
Thank you. I don't know what that... Is that a subscription to my YouTube channel? Like, what's going on? It's keyboard ASMR. Honestly, my friend gave me this mechanical keyboard for this like PC live stream setup, and it clicks so loud. And they're like, "Oh, that's how you know it's good because it clicks." I'm like, "Yeah, but I want to live stream with it." He's like, "No, it clicks. That's how you know it's good." So maybe I'm just old and I don't understand this crazy mixed up world. But yeah. Hey, Alf Benny. Hey. Alf is here. Alf is a great YouTuber. His YouTube channel is called Alf Benny. He's the bestest YouTuber of all time. And he's not paying me to say that. He's the best YouTuber.
There was 2 blocks, and I regret that I made this decision, but I said we're going to walk the 2 blocks. We walked 1 block. But as we walked one block, we could see some police in the distance, but we also saw a mob of about 30 people marching and yelling. They all of a sudden saw me right as we got to the policeman, fortunately, or I don't think we'd have survived. We got to...
Oh my God, Rand, like comb your hair, buddy. Like it's like he didn't comb his hair from that instance. I don't know if he would. I don't think we would have survived. I mean, it's possible, but I mean, is it beyond these rioters to assault a sitting senator? 100%, and to assault her over Breonna Taylor? 100%. That's something that they would definitely do. So, like survival, I don't know. I mean, DC is a dangerous city, but yeah. Can you imagine if Senator Rand Paul, like, actually didn't come into the police and actually was assassinated by Black Lives Matter rioters who were angry at Rand Paul for not saying Breonna Taylor's name? Once again, and once more with feeling, the author of the Justice for Breonna Taylor bill. Can you imagine if he was alone and, like, he was seriously injured or killed by these rioters for that reason? Like, people would say, "Oh, well, murdering senators is the voice of the unheard." Like that's what people would have said. Buffoons.
The policeman, and the policeman I don't think recognized me, and as they came closer they were shouting my name, and the crowd doubled to 60, and then it doubled again to 120, and as they were surrounding us and it got closer and closer and everybody kept pushing back, the policemen were forming a barricade with their bodies. I whispered to the policeman, "They know who I am, you've got to get reinforcements, it's going to get worse." He called for reinforcements, but we didn't get any reinforcements. We waited, but the crowd was getting bigger and bigger and pushing in.
Again, that's just a decent reflex again. Like, I can't get over that. Like, the guy's terrified. He's been attacked multiple times. He's had, again, people shoot at him when he's practicing for a congressional baseball game. And they shove a cop. And instead of thinking, oh, my barrier on that side is vulnerable, let me bunch up to the other cops, he goes to make sure this guy doesn't fall and like asks him if he's okay. Like, come on. This is the person the rioters are attacking.
Yelling threats. They were trying to push the police over to get to me. They were grabbing at us, and it got worse and worse and worse. And then finally we decided to make a move. I said, we've got to move. If there's not going to be reinforcements, we have to try to get to the hotel, which was another block. And they were shouting threats, you know, to us, to kill us, to hurt us. But they're also shouting, "Say her name, Breonna Taylor." And it's like, you couldn't reason with this mob, but I'm actually the author of the Breonna Taylor law to end no-knock raids. So,
yeah. I mean, he just said it. Like, yeah. Come on. That's who they're attacking. Say her name, Rand. Say her name. We're gonna kill you, Rand. Say her name. Like, that's how the mob is acting right there. Like, ridiculous.
The irony is lost on these idiots that they're trying to...
Oh, damn, Rand. Tell us how you really feel. I've been saying that for, I don't know, God knows how long. Like, throughout this. That's basically what I've been saying when I'm saying he's the author of that bill, that the irony is lost on these idiots. But Rand, damn. Just tell us how you really feel. He's like, bro, I lost my comb that's allowing me to comb these strands of hair right here. You know how hard it is to be a short-haired, curly-haired man? I don't, because I have straight hair. But Rand knows. But, Jesus.
Kill the person who's actually trying to get rid of no-knock raids, and they were shouting and screaming and just, it really, these people were unhinged, but I can't tell you how, I'm not sure we would have made it. So as we're walking, sort of surrounded by the police, they're attempting to push the police over to get to me. So at one point, they push a policeman backwards. He stumbles, and he's trying to catch his balance, and I catch the back of his flak jacket to stabilize him and, you know, make sure that he's okay, because he's our defense. I mean, if he's down, the mob's...
Rand Paul's a good quarterback. He's checking if his linemen are all right. He's like, yeah. I'm checking if he's okay. All right.
Loose on us. And you've seen the pictures of what they do to you. If the police are not there, if you defund the police, if we become Portland, if America becomes Portland, what's going to happen is people...
Yeah, there's a video of some elderly, like, I don't know if they were a couple, but it was an old man and an old woman. And they take the megaphone, they go up into this guy's face, right? They're screaming at his face, like, right by his chin. And some morbidly obese woman with, like, white, like, dreadlocks comes up behind him, shoves him into the megaphone in the face, and then they had the balls, the nerve, to say that that guy assaulted them. Like, it's on video. This ridiculously huge, like, black woman with white dreadlocks, and you can see her, like, clearly. Like, I'm able to describe her so well because her actions are 100% caught on video. Runs up behind this guy, elderly guy, and does that, and then they attack him again from behind. By the way, they have a mob. It's like 40-1, and she still sneak attacks him. Like, that's who these people are. Thank you for the follow. Like, it's not even a question of how unreasonable and how violent these mobs are. And that's the same mob the same night that this happened with Rand Paul. So he's 100% right about the police.
People are going to be pummeled and kicked in the head and left senseless on the curb. That would have happened to us. I promise you, had we not had the D.C. police to support us, I mean, we are thankful that we have police,
right.
And we've got to wake up. We can't have the whole country. We can't have Joe Biden rule the country and have no police. I mean, we can't walk down the street in D.C. safely now. That's how bad it is.
I saw one police officer was actually using his bicycle to try to keep the crowd back. He fell into you. You almost stumbled and fell down. You and your wife are both.
Fox, did you not just listen to what he's... First of all, Rand Paul just described that moment. What is this? This is Steve Doocy, right? Doocy? Like Steve Doocy, right? Rand Paul just said, yeah, he knocked down, and I went to grab him by his flak jacket to stabilize him. And this guy's like, so yeah, he knocked this guy down, and you almost fell over, Rand. Like, he's not even listening. These TV guys are not good. Also, again, this Chiron, swarmed by protesters. Protesters don't swarm you. Rioters swarm you. Violent mobs swarm you. That's what happened. Fix your headline, Fox, or your Chiron, your lower third.
Okay, right?
We were unharmed, but, you know, it's still going on this morning. There's still mobs in the street blocking the streets. And I know it sounds like over the top to say that people are from out of town, but I think we're going to find out that these people are hired and from out of town, specifically in our...
I mean, they might have some agitators and organizers in there, but I think these are also people in D.C.
case. I believe there are going to be people who were involved with the attack on us that actually were paid to come here, are not from Washington, D.C., and are sort of paid to be anarchists.
Yeah.
This is disturbing because...
You're paid to be anarchists. Very organized anarchists. Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Because really, if you're inciting a riot, that's a crime. But if you're paying someone to incite a riot, that person needs to go to jail as well. But we can't live this way.
Rand Paul is talking about going after the Soros-backed rioters. Yeah, I don't think people... Like, there might be some agitators. Like, there are professional protesters in the United States of America. Like, these activist groups that make a ton of money off of this stuff. You know, the BLM, like, the two women that created it are, like, we're trained Marxist organizers. Yeah, that obviously exists. We understand that. But you don't have to pay people to act like this. Like, people act like animals when the police aren't around. That happens.
Getting worse and worse. You know, I like being free to be able to walk out and go for a walk in the park. We cannot go outside now. It's become so dangerous for us. And I don't hear Joe Biden or Kamala Harris saying one thing about the violence. Yeah. This mob is their voters. This is the new Democrat Party. And if we do...
Yeah, so that's, like, obviously becoming a Republican talking point, calling the mob Joe Biden voters. Tucker Carlson started doing that way before. Like, they're finally figuring out that Tucker Carlson is the #1 host on cable news for a reason, and he's been that way since the BLM movement started for a reason, so they're kind of taking their cues on language from him.
Don't resist this. The United States is going to become Portland. We're going to become Chicago. All of these failed cities...
I mean, Portland and Chicago, those are failing for different reasons, but I understand the sentiment.
Democrats have run. The president said it in his speech. If we allow them to take over the White House, we are going to become Portland. The country will be on fire.
I mean, President Trump is pretty lucky that Portland is never going to vote for him. Like, hell will freeze over before that, because it is pretty funny in a speech to say, if you let Joe Biden, Joey B, Sleepy Joe, into the White House, then we're going to become Portland. This third world hellhole that you have an advisor come up there like, Mr. President, Portland is an American city. This Democrat American city, which is a third world hellhole because of the Democrats. That's what our country is going to be. Like that's pretty amazing that Portland has become that bad that nobody even blinks an eye at people saying we could become like this American city. It's true though, but like Portland, disaster.
We have to have law and order, and we have to support the police. You know, I can't say that strong enough.
Senator, some of the papers today are reporting that what was being yelled at you was, as you said, say her name, Breonna Taylor. You know, you said there were obscenities. I would not like you to repeat those, but you said there were threats. Tell us what the threats were.
Tell us what the threats were, Rand.
Well, the threats were to F you up, to kill you. The threats were if they could get hold of you, and I truly believe this with every fiber of my being, had they gotten at us, they would have gotten us to the ground. We might not have been killed. We might just have been injured by being kicked in the head or kicked in the stomach. And
so I've already seen reports that they're like, Rand Paul is dramatizing this. Like, how many times have we seen, again, this same night, this same mob attacked an elderly man from behind twice, got him on the ground. How many times have we seen people get stomped out, punched repeatedly in the face for when they get them on the ground? They get sneak attacked. First of all, they have the numbers advantage, and they're still sneak attacking these people, and then they're hitting them when they're unconscious on the ground. Like, that is standard. And, you know, somebody, like, again, mob mentality, somebody gets whipped up into a hysteria about all this Black Lives Matter stuff, finds out that this is a Republican senator. Yeah, this is not unusual. Like, this is not a crazy thing. Like, Rand is not, you know, hamming this up. And he's there with his wife. You know what I mean? You feel more guarded when you're around your wife because, you know, like you have that like instinct that, you know, even if something bad happens to me, like, that's fine. But it's like, I can do something to maybe defend myself from the mob. But, like, they hit my wife and I have to cover her. Like, it's a disaster. So, yeah, I get why he's upset. Like, he might have felt differently had his wife not been there and two women from his church or from his community he said he brought with him. Like, yeah, not a good option.
Till we were senseless. You've seen the pictures. Most of the networks will not show the pictures of this. This is happening in all of our cities. It's got to stop. And thank God for the police. Had we not gotten to the police, I truly believe that the police saved our life and we would not be here today, or we'd be in a hospital today had the police not been there. And I'd like to thank them if they're watching this. We thanked them last night, but it was still a melee. They were still trying to get people, away from us. Even in the hotel, people were following us into the hotel.
Well, let me ask you this as an exit question. Given the fact that you said that these people are still on the streets, protesters are still on the streets, and we heard from Griff Jenkins about a half an hour ago that apparently a number of the businesses in Washington, D.C. are boarded up because they're worried about trouble going.
Yeah, for all these dorks that say that insurance pays for everything, you shouldn't worry. It's just property damage, even though that's total nonsense. Even if you're like one of those people, a lot of the businesses are still boarded up from damage done on June 1st of this year. This is not something you recover from overnight. That's not how that works.
Forward. Does a prominent Republican...
Also, this is really important. If you remember, the Congressional Black Caucus walked in front of the Tea Partiers on their way to vote for Obamacare to pass back in 2009. So they by the way, there's like tunnels for members to walk to the House to vote. Like, so you don't have to walk above ground. They saw Tea Party protesters, right? They walked out to go vote for Obamacare. Obviously, the Tea Party was a lot about Obamacare. They were against it. They were like yelling at them, but they were yelling at them about not voting for this. These Congressional Black Caucus members at the time, back in 2010, were like, oh, they called us the N-word, they called us this, they called us that, they were horrible, it was dangerous. They never got up in their face to approach them. Not one person got up in their face to approach them. They said that this guy spat on them or whatever. There's video coverage of that whole thing. I remember Andrew Breitbart offered something like $50,000 if anybody had any video of anybody saying the N-word, and there was like 7 videos produced. Not one of them had that utterance, right? They were spazzing out about that. This is a million times worse. Like, it's actually dangerous, and like they're actually like hurling threats at him.
Like yourself, somebody who is very recognized.
Also, he's trying to get to his hotel, and they did the things to do to try to avoid it. Like the Congressional Black Caucus specifically walked by the Tea Partiers so that they could claim that they said something back in 2009, I believe. So, like that's how the media, like, go look at the coverage of that from the mainstream media and see how they covered it.
Need to have security to simply walk on the streets of Washington, D.C. or major cities in America?
Probably yes, from now on. I don't feel it at home. At home, people are so friendly. I can go to the grocery store, and I want to live, the life of a normal person where I go to the grocery store and buy groceries or stop at the Minute Mart. And at home,
Grocery store to buy groceries. Obviously, that's what you do. It's a grocery store. Doesn't need to be said, Rand. I'm not being very critical of him, so I have to nitpick. So, yeah, that's the nitpick.
do feel that, but this also isn't normal. There's something going on here. This is like the FBI needs to be involved.
What do you mean something's going
racket.
on, Senator? What do you mean something's?
I like how Rand Paul's like explaining it, and he's like, "What do you mean, Rand? What do you mean?" It's like, dude, I know they tell you on TV to say things for a certain period of time, but I was just explaining that. Just let me talk. Yeah, it's television, limited amount of time. What do you mean, Rand? Yeah, he's explaining it. This isn't Ducey. Is this Steve Ducey? Right, this is Steve Ducey, I think. Somebody's like, go to the Home Depot to buy homes.
Going on. You've got a feeling. Tell us what you think.
My feeling is that there is interstate criminal traffic being paid for across state lines, but you won't know it unless you arrest them.
Racketeering is what Rand Paul's calling. I mean, they are an organization. Like, this illusion that Antifa is an ethereal movement that just spawns up from the ground to respond to fascism is nonsense. They're organized. You can read about their training and all this stuff that they do. They have organizers, they have leaders, they have a structure. They're essentially a gang. Like, he is right about this. You could use racketeering stuff to look into them. They're a criminal organization.
Otherwise, you just think, oh, these are some normal hoodlums from a big city. I promise you that
Rand Paul's such an old man. He just said hoodlums.
At least some of the members and the people who attacked us were not from D.C.
These are normal hoodlums that are congregating in an urban environment.
They flew here on a plane. They've all got fresh new clothes, and they were paid to be here.
Rand Paul's like, they were dressed fresh to death. I saw them. They were wearing the new LeBrons. Some of them had Jordans. Some of them had the 824 Kobe's. Didn't you see that? Those limited edition ones. They were obviously camped out for that. Like, Rand Paul's on point. You know what it is? He has such sharp eyes because he's an optometrist. Yeah, see what I did there? I turned what he did into a skill set that he has. He could see good because he's an eye doctor.
A crime to do that, and it needs to be traced. The FBI needs to investigate, but the only way you can do it is you have to arrest people. And usually we say, oh, well, you didn't get hurt, so we're not going to arrest them. They were inciting a riot, and they would have killed us had the police not been there. They all need to be arrested. And
I mean, they just assaulted a police officer right there.
I'm not saying forever, but they need to be arrested, questioned. They need to say, where are you staying? And the bills need to be subpoenaed by a judge to say, who paid for your bill? How did you get here on a plane and staying in a fancy hotel, and yet you're acting like a criminal?
I saw these people when I was getting ice in my hotel. They were right there. Didn't make any sense. Tell me what's going on.
Things going on here, and it's much bigger than people think. But the bottom line is we can't let the United States become Portland, and that's what my fear is, that the United States...
Rand Paul's going into like conspiracy territory right here. I'm not saying that there isn't people, there aren't people like paying for instigators. You know what I mean? Again, organized protesters, like paid protesters, do exist. And Rand Paul, by the way, there was a guy when Rand Paul was running for Senate against the Democrat. There was a guy who showed up wearing like decked out in Rand Paul gear, and you could look up this story. And she had like a Dora the Explorer piñata pinned to a poster board. Right, and it was meant to be like Rand Paul's racist against immigrants. This is Rand Paul's supporter. So, some like journalists like filmed that guy, like a citizen journalist, and they're like, "Get out of here! Like, what are you doing?" They went to the Sestak rally, which was Rand Paul's opponent, and they found that same exact guy. Oh, thank you for renewing your Twitch Prime subscription. I appreciate that. 2 months on board. Yeah, but this girl, I'm sorry, this guy, he had the Dora the Explorer thing. He's like meant to be a racist, you know, and all that. They find this guy in a nice button-down shirt. He's a campaign staffer for Rand Paul's senatorial opponent. So like it's not ridiculous to say that this kind of thing does happen. Like it happened to Rand Paul during his campaign.
It's going to be on fire if we have no police. And look, I've been for reform. I've authored 22 criminal justice reforms. They were yelling at me, we're not going to let you go alive unless you'll say out loud you're for criminal justice reform. And I'm like...
He's like, hey, idiots. I'm the best on that issue. You're a schmuck. He's like, let me fix your eyes so you can see me better. I'm Rand Paul, the criminal justice reform senator.
You idiot. You are so dense that you have no idea.
I didn't think he was going to actually say, you idiot. Like, okay, I'm like predicting Rand Paul's words.
That I've been a leading advocate for criminal justice reform with President Obama, with President Trump, and you're going to try to kill me, and I've been trying to help the problems. And so this is what's sad, but it's such lawlessness. If we have this kind of lawlessness, I would say...
How crazy would it be if Rand Paul came out tomorrow and he introduced a bill, and he was like, yeah, rioting, life in prison without parole. I've changed my mind about criminal justice thanks to Black Lives Matter. He called it the Black Lives Matter riot bill. Federal crime. It would be funny.
People are going to get killed. People have been killed. You know, the former police chief, his story was, so sorrowful to listen to his wife last night that was killed in St. Louis. Yeah. You know, the little girl, Sequoia Turner, 8 years old, was shot in the middle of the day in Atlanta because they took a wrong turn. But the police, they had let the mob take over a street corner armed. We can't let our cities be taken over by these marauders and thugs.
Well,
Ooh, marauder. I haven't heard that one.
We're glad you are safe, you and your wife, Kelly, and we thank you very much for coming on to tell us your story. Let's see what...
All right, whatever, Fox guy. Yeah. All right, that was the Rand Paul hour of the live stream. Let me elevate my chair so I'm a little bit taller for you guys, more impressive. Yeah, that was the Rand Paul hour. That was pretty fun.